This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks us about taking a break, and I ask everybody about commercializing Hanukkah.
Woo! Charles in charge of our days. And Joey, this is Joey. This is what Joey sounds like.
I really, wow. We'll make it better the second time around. This is what Inherent sounds like.
You know, the message of Step by Step was generally pretty good, I think, without refreshing myself in the actual subject matter day to day. The general message is second chances. We all get second chances.
Agreed.
Huh.
Yeah.
And this is what an executive producer and future Suzanne Summers, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess. Who's that?
Fair enough. No, that's fair. I'm going to encourage everyone to Google, but Suzanne Summers is awesome and has the most beaming smile of 1993 that I can recall.
1993, 1978.
Also true. Why did I jump to the
Three's Company?
You're correct.
Step by Step. Buns of Steel, I believe, as well as, of course, the Thigh Master.
Right. Yes. She is the coolest thing about Suzanne Summers, and I can say the coolest thing, and this actually runs into something that Jess and I were just talking about before we all got on the pod. Everyone should listen to RuPaul's interview with Suzanne Summers on What's the Tea, because you get an amazing understanding of who she is as an entrepreneur and who she is as a businesswoman. And how she's made that work so easily and well for her from the 70s to today. It's the interviews from a couple years ago, but God, she's awesome. She's awesome.
I'm just looking up her net worth right now because I was like, she's worth over $100 million.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Suzanne Summers did not come to play. Just to be very clear.
To be clear, there are people who are playing. And then there is Suzanne Summers. And these are mutually exclusive groups.
Random.
Is there such a thing as an Venn diagram? Because that's would describe that.
Miss Hayden, my high school math teacher, would say that those are mutually exclusive. And, y'all, this house is clean. We don't have time. We also did not come to play. And... our house is already clean.
Yep.
I have a question.
Ooh.
And it stems from what I told you prior to the show, is that I am stutter stepping into the break. And, it's been said, there ain't no half stepping. And I think currently I'm half stepping because... I may have mentioned this on the show last year. We were coming into our holiday break, and the pandemic was a, rough year. Everyone was up and down. Rough year is, understatement of the century.
Of the year.
But of certainly of that year. And we wrote, a progress report newsletter at the end of the year, and I was like, I think I'm pulling it up just so I can quote myself.
I love this.
I said, let's keep it 100. We're not looking for homework over this break. But if we're still being honest, sometimes it takes a minute to relax. Slowing down takes effort. And little did I know, I was thinking in that moment, like, I'm seeing this ahead of time. I get this. Slowing down is going to take effort. And I completely wilted in my holiday break last year. I think both because of sort of the stress of the year and finally stopping for a moment in the, I often compare myself to LeBron James, as you both know very well. LeBron James has often talked about when he finishes an NBA season or wins a championship, he is basically almost sick for a period because of he was going so hard and he stops. And that kind of happened to me. And I'm looking at the break this year. I'm kind of oh no, am I going to do what I did again last year? Like, I'm kind of almost scared of it. And so my question for y'all is, how do we take a break? What you can't see is that both Aaron and Jess are like they're like full, like, I don't know how.
Well, to be honest, it's because I think that maybe the notion of a break is just not like possible, or I guess when I think about a break in totality, I think about like going into a sensory deprivation chamber that is suspended in time and space. That would be a break for me. And maybe it's just because it's Friday afternoon and my brain is unnecessarily metaphysical in that way.
You just need to talk to Vegeta and Goku and go into a hyperbolic chamber. It's so easy.
I'm glad somebody understands. You're totally right.
Is that a Dragon Ball Z reference?
It is, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just clarifying.
Hiya.
With
that was stupid.
Aaron, the potential exception of, I guess I don't have a better word for this than meditation, but I don't think that my type of meditation is not the listen to some person trying to take me through a practice. Like what I did yesterday, which was actually, it did feel like a break of suspending things in time when I somehow decided to spend my evening recreating my favorite Ann Arbor deli in Animal Crossing.
Wow. Support.
I don't know what an Ann Arbor deli is.
No, the Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, and using
Ann Arbor deli.
Ann Arbor, I didn't enunciate enough.
Which, Jess, I'm sorry, I have to do a really, really fast interruption that I had a Zingerman's ham for Thanksgiving. It is the best ham I've ever had, period. Like truly, without full stop. It's killer. And they're in the Whole Foods in Detroit. I'm sorry.
And the airport. So if you miss your chance, make sure to pick something up from... We just must give a special thanks in this moment to the Zingerman's community of businesses, affectionately coined Z-Cobb. But I digress. To my digression.
I think I digressed upon you. Please continue.
But just that I think what we're looking for is something that feels more substantial. Like a break that feels like something. You know what I mean? Like not just like, oh, that was a nice hour spent. And that's the thing that I'm feeling like when Aaron, you say like it's elusive.
Yeah, I think that point, like to what both of you are saying, is like I don't even know what I want from it. And I think that, you know, like a lifetime of being like oriented around work is that like I feel like I don't make good use of my time. In part, I think last year was like I couldn't go see family. I wasn't working. I didn't have any plans because we were in like a surge in cases.
Yeah.
And so I was just like in my apartment because the weather was crappy and like nothing was open. So it was just like I couldn't see anybody. Like, so there was sort of, I wasn't using the break time to accomplish anything. But I also, in general, know that I'm like not good at sort of planning for a thing like that. And maybe that is, I don't know if that's a problem or not. I just like, I don't know what I want from a break. And so maybe in that way also, it's like, I'm not getting whatever it is you should be getting.
Well, this is the thing, right? Some people are like, you don't need to get anything out of it. Like, that's the whole point. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe that is for you, but I don't derive satisfaction. And Joey, if you're anything like this too, it's like, as soon as I'm too focused on other stuff and then a break time arrives and then I'm like, I didn't think ahead of how to spend this. And now every second that passes, I feel like I'm wasting this opportunity.
Yes. I mean, I remember going on a vacation during a particularly intense period a few years ago, and I got to the beach and sat down and opened up a book, I literally couldn't. I was doing that thing where you reread the first line 100 times because I needed to grab my phone and make a to-do list. I could not do anything that was supposed to be just chill and relaxing because I was like, but I have to get all the other stuff out of my head because if I'm not planning or working, how am I doing anything? Which, admittedly, like, I don't think that that's a good thing. I think that is a very bad thing. I think it's born from a really, like, I think similarly, like, I come from a mind or a background of working, not so much as you, Joey. You really have had like a sort of consistent work job since you were like 12, is that right?
Yeah. 14
and so,
with like a legal job, but I was working before that.
And there's like, I think for years I just switched modes from like for example, schoolwork to my creative work. Like, I would immediately start working on an album. I would start writing music. I would start trying to record it. I would do all this stuff during breaks to try to like produce an album before school started so that I could take it to school and sell it. Like when everybody came back from their break, which I did multiple times. The music is terrible, by the way. Like, I will never.
Terrible.
It's I'll give 16-year-old me a pat on the back that like it was derivative yet inventive at the same time. But yeah, I think that like the reality that I've found as I've gotten older is that there is a point at which I can fully turn my brain off and fully take a break, but I can probably only do it for like 3 hours at a time, or maybe 2 hours at a time.
Yep.
Anything outside of that, I have to be planning something. I have to be planning another thing.
Yep.
But I mean, like, also, I think with breaks, a lot of times I find that, especially in our line of work, so much of it can be defined by like unexpected sort of bombs of things that hit you, where it's like all of a sudden this project changes overnight, or there's like a really intense sprint that you have to go through or something like that. And when you get to a break, there's rarely, I don't feel like there's that same sort of like clear delineation of like, you've gone into, like, there's been a change in things. It's just like, okay, put your pen down no matter where you are in the cycle of things. Put your pen down and relax. And I'm like, whoa, but the pen's right. Can we just finish the thing? Can we like get to a point where why now? Why does it have to be now?
That's the thing that I've been thinking about too, is the mode shift. And like when I was writing that thing last year for that newsletter before we went on like holiday break and we closed the company for 2 years last year. Again, holiday break, Aaron, you brought this up ahead of time. We sort of shut down the company between Christmas and New Year's for that.
Closed for 2 weeks. We weren't closed for 2 years.
Right, yeah.
Last year we closed for an additional week because it was just such a intense year. But that point that you're making about there's a gear shift, right? Like you're revving at 100, right? Like you're in fifth gear, like ripping, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, stop, right? And you're like, like no one downshifted. We just turned the engine off. Like it doesn't work that way. There's so much momentum and inertia in like certainly our line of work, but I don't think that that's unique. And there's something about like, even as you were talking about it, in my, maybe Jess, you may laugh at this, but like my head was like, should you start a break with like a dose of psychedelics so that you're, or, you know, like that was like the thing where I'm like, this is like a forced sort of recalibration mentally where you can kind of, like if you're needing to pull yourself out of a mindset rapidly, like what are the ways in which you can pull yourself out of a mindset rapidly? Is like,
that's
right.
Brilliant.
You know, a dose of mushrooms or LSD or something.
I imagine the downshift is most easy for, and now this is assuming so much, and I do not have this occupation, but in my mind, the downshift is super easy for a teacher because they're like, I got all summer to just like hang out. But actually the hard part is that revving back up starts too soon. You're like in middle of July, you're already thinking like, oh gosh, got to get my stuff together for the fall, and it's like there's the creep. There's the end of break creep.
The Sunday scaries are like the 4th of July scaries.
Right. Well, in that profession, I guess that's the thing, right? Is that you can for any length of break, this phenomenon still exists, which is like, it's not even so much the amount of time as it is like the protecting the in-between of the downshift and the upshift, gearing up.
Well, and I guess in thinking about other professions, it makes me think about other countries as well. Like, we work really hard. And so like the idea that we only, kind of standard practice, I would say, is that like you don't take more than a week off. That's kind of like an unwritten, like not rule, but it's like 2 weeks is like, oh, good for
That's
you.
Long.
Like
that sounds great. Yeah.
Like, God forbid you take 3 weeks and then you just see people just like freak out, run around, hair on fire. Ah!
Did you quit?
Right. But like the emotion and even the physiological adrenaline response, I always find it specifically at the end of the year to be the hardest because it's always intense. There's always so much going on. And like that energy, I have to transfer it to somewhere to start winding it down. Actually, better put, I wish that I could just wind it down, but there are other things that absorb that same energy. And usually it's like, I've got to hop on a flight to go see family. Then I've got to deal with family for a bunch of days. And like, there's different work there. And then maybe you get back home and then it's like, oh, I've got like 2 days before we go back to work. Like maybe I'll calm down by the end of day one. Maybe. That's hard.
It makes me think about this. I think you'd think that the best thing to do is, let's say you have a 2-week break. No work, no necessarily plan, just nothing going on. I think common wisdom would be to just maximize the time, like schedule a thing, go somewhere and come back as last minute as you can. But maybe it is easier to accelerate into the downshift with a frozen mocktail in hand beachside if that is the luxury you can indulge in. But the transition back, if you come back on a Sunday and you have work that very next day, it is then all of a sudden the mental preparation for the return is inevitably going to cut into the tail end of whatever break you were in the midst of taking. Like maybe there just needs to be some more transitional time.
So this has become like a new like rule for me, is that I always will put a day between the end of whatever trip I'm on and going back to work. Mm-hmm. And I have found it like make a profound difference because of that creep. Like the creep is there also to serve to help you not like have a pound of bricks dropped on you when you walk in the front door when you go back into the workplace. But do y'all do that too? And do you find that it helps with being able to break?
I haven't gone anywhere in 2 years. So like over 2 years now. It was like November of 2019 was the last time I went on like a vacation trip. But yeah, we, in that one we came back on Friday before. And so we had the full weekend to sort of context shift. I think like that's what, in your point, Jess, about like transitionary time is like, how do you use it? Like even thinking back to like, high school, right? You had like senioritis, right? Like that concept where it's like high school's wrapping up or like the end of the year, things like start to slow down. And it's like, do I give homework the last week of school? Like most teachers didn't, you had a few hardos that would like still give homework, but for them, it's like, you're not doing homework the last week of school. It's like things are pretty much wrapped up at that point, unless you're like gunning to like get over the edge on like one grade or something like that. And so that sort of transition in other places, like you do it. And I think that's what, like, we're talking about, like, taking a break, right? The idea is, like, take a break from work, or like a holiday from work, or a vacation, whatever, is like, I'm not doing work, but we're not thinking about sort of what that transitionary time requires, or like what you need to make it feel like a thing, right? Like, fundamentally, you're talking about like a context shift for you personally. And I think in order to make a context shift, and why probably a lot of people travel for breaks or holidays, is to pull yourself out of the environment that you're typically in, as like
it's
an
a cue.
additional signal. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and now for something different, we're going to not do this anymore. Yeah. I think that's it, along with what, Aaron, you were talking about with the pens and pencils down conversation. I think all of this comes back to a key component to taking a break that it seems like we're talking about, which is creating firm deadlines of gearing down and revving back up. Gearing down ideally is at the very latest starting when the break is formally starting, but maybe even sooner, like the school example you're just talking about, Joey. And also giving yourself a firm deadline or starting kickoff time to rev back up also allows you to theoretically enjoy more fully all of the time in between, before it's like, all right, this is my one transitional day, or if you get that. I also think that there's something too about regardless of those like formal deadlines, about creating, at least for me, like creating more space if I can get rid of the little naggy stuff. For instance, if I know after a week away I'm going to come back and I have to clean, that's just that's just going to be hanging over me. And so maybe this is not, it's not always easy to keep up, but at least for a more concerted break, I tried to clean the house, so I returned to a clean house, because there is nothing worse than coming back and being like, okay,
chores. Yeah.
Here we go.
I do the exact, I will be late for the airport because I'm making the bed. Like, I absolutely, because that feeling of coming back in and all the stuff is not waiting for you, that's like better than vacation itself. And I think maybe then there's this other thing that you inspired me with, Jess, which is like, there's so much about making sure that you have the rev up time and demarcations for that and the rev down time. There's also something about trying to create, as much as you can, some sort of softer edges to the transitions too. Mm-hmm. Like, I think like managing workload and workflow and managing your own boundaries in such a way that like you're not at a full sprint when you have to come to a stop is probably a way to make it a little bit less traumatic when you're like, I'm supposed to relax now? Like,
oh my gosh, I love that we're talking about physics in this context. You just want to, there's just too much inertia, and you just gotta you gotta slow it down. Oh man.
You need to create a new strange attractor.
What is that?
A new strange attractor.
There it is.
Or your Lorenz attractors.
Without fail, it's always a strange attractor.
Yeah.
Stranger tractors.
Yeah, I think it is like
what is P equals NU?
The cues and the signals, I think, even in like before this, I tried as much as I could to work at work in the office and not work at home. And that, like, those cues and signals have been broken. I was coming into the office by myself before, so I still had some of that, but for a lot of people, that's not, y'all are both in your home office situations right now. And so that idea of like, even if we can't travel now because new variants are coming around for the holidays, or whatever people's situations are, it does feel like the idea of like, how are you changing your cues, even if you're just like, I'm gonna go to different places in the place I live that I never go to, as a means to create separation from the normal pattern that you're in as a break, I think is helpful, at least for me, in thinking about this, of saying like, okay, last year I was just like, I was in the normal pattern during break, but reduced. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it was not even as like broad of a pattern. I just like shrunk it in and then wasn't breaking anything. So I wasn't getting that. So maybe a break is breaking the pattern. Huh. Okay.
Is that, I don't want to, is it hip hop? Do you hear tortilla? Jess's wrap up corner. Yeah.
In a conversation that began about how you take a break, we've actually talked more about how to even get to the point of the break itself. We haven't even so much talked about how to break in the full stop. Once you're stopped, no goodness. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show seriously the biased work culture that we are acquainted with in our country and city and experiences. But it also is nevertheless an important reminder as we are hopefully getting to enjoy one such break very soon. So I need to be reminding myself of these cues, signals.
We're doing it with enough time. We're talking about it soon enough.
This is a good time to be talking about this.
Yeah.
Love it, y'all.
Tortilla?
I'm gonna yeah. I'll slow it down. This is nice.
Pump the brake. Pump the brakes. Pump it up.
When the nothing's moving.
Hit your alarm is snoozing.
Good.
Beep, beep. That was supposed to be a snore, and it sounded more like a snort, a gross snort, and I
snore. I like the snore.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jess, our official holiday critic, what have you got for us today?
For many, this is the time of year where they're talking about the holiday season approaching. For me and my fellow Jews, the holiday of this particular season has already begun. Happy Hanukkah to those who observe, celebrate, Festival of Lights. And yet, all the way back into October, in at least my circles, there were conversations mostly deriding the pending treatment of Hanukkah. And not in the context of observers, but more in the context of the commercial landscape and big box retailers in their annual attempt to figure out what to do with everyone who doesn't observe Christmas. And particularly prioritizing Hanukkah in a half-hearted way, because there are plenty of people beyond those two categories as well. But this year in particular, there was a lot circulating around this because, namely, Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if you've seen this. A few months ago, began selling several purportedly Hanukkah-themed pillows, yet painfully, at best, borrowing Christmas themes and then just making it take Christmas, but make it Hanukkah. And in its worst format, did what I think has become almost cliche now, this screenshot of this product of a pillow with a menorah on it with the quote underneath, "Why is this night different from all other nights?" Which Aaron recognizes is from Passover.
Yep.
Which is an entirely different holiday. And underneath it goes Happy Hanukkah, and all of the Jews are thinking this is hilarious and so embarrassing. But also such an accurate representation of really the way Hanukkah is presented commercially. And I've even talked to some of our colleagues about the woefully limited design innovation of the menorah. There's actually very few really interesting, nice, beautiful, commercially available or broadly available menorahs like that aren't crazy expensive or handmade, you know what I mean? And it's a really interesting thing too, and I grapple with it because also Hanukkah just happens to happen near Christmas, but it is not the holiest of holidays in the Jewish calendar and in all sorts of celebrations. And yet at the same time, in a season so heavily dominated by Christmas gifts and trees and seasonal and Christmas season and the holiday spirit and all of that, there's so much that has been built above the celebration itself into this like culture of Christmas, which just leaves the culture of Hanukkah in a very strange place. And so that is why I bring to you this question of why is the average American retailer so bad at Hanukkah?
Because they don't care about the holiday.
Yeah, you're right.
They just want money.
Because nobody cares about Hanukkah. That's why.
It's just that's why. No, I giggle because I just there's an article in the New York Times that just came out this week that actually talked about this, and it even has like a Christmas stocking that's in blue and silver with Happy Hanukkah on it, and it's just like
amazing.
Qua? Like, do you not? But it's like, I think I feel like we've danced around something similar, and all right, two things. One is that I don't want this to turn into all holidays are treated terribly. That's very much like all lives matter. And I'm like very aware that there's like specific and particular egregious mistakes that have been made to Hanukkah that are different from all other holidays that have been mistreated. So I want to that's maybe a disclaimer or an awareness or Is this me over contextualizing?
No,
maybe.
no, but I appreciate.
We don't know what the point is yet, so could be or could not be.
I love this. But I literally did it. Oh, if you don't get it, listeners, go listen to last week or 2 weeks ago's episode.
I think it was last week.
It was last week. You'll fill it in. But I do think that if we look at the way that corporations have tried to handle pride and the way that they try to handle any moment that is special to any group, it doesn't even have to be a marginalized group. It's just a specific group. Mm-hmm. It ends up being ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's just clunky. And there's so many they're just just use the stockings and make them blue.
That's the thing that I think is most fascinating to me, which is that by pure seasonal proximity, the assumption is that Hanukkah is literally Christmas for Jews, and that is wild to me. Yeah, that's the obvious conclusion.
But is it is Hanukkah the only high holiday that comes with gifts?
I don't know if Hanukkah is considered a high holiday.
Got it.
I think the high holidays are like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. But I think I also I don't know enough about the history of gifts and if that was even born out of the culture of Christmas having gifts. But this is where it would help to have someone who knows more about this. But I know there are a lot of things that have been culturally borrowed just to keep, commercially engaged population.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm just doing a quick Google search on Hanukkah things, which is a really, really erudite Google search. But the stuff that's coming up and the way that people are talking about oh yeah, just mash Christmas and Hanukkah together. This is, of course you're on the leading edge of everything, Jess, but you're definitely on to a conversation that's been going on a lot this year in particular, which is that I think that there's some arguments that I think pop up about supply chain limitations, which is such a cop out where it's just oh yeah, you've got less stuff. So what we need to do is just color it differently in order to get it by this time of year. There's just limited stuff that can get sent out.
Right.
And then there is, of course, the just complete lack of investment in understanding anything that has to do with Hanukkah. It's
and yet the attempts are what fascinate me. It's interesting. You're trying to sell throw pillows to Jews and yet clearly have not consulted a Jew.
But
Yeah.
the interesting part too is like some of my Jewish friends that I've spoken to in the past, like there is this like very like wide spectrum of observance in sort of American Jews, going from like only high holiday or not even high holiday Jews, which also, live corrections department, Hanukkah is not a high holiday. I checked.
Right. It's Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, but the all the way to like highly observant, like regular attendance to synagogues, or even like Hasidic Jews have a pretty considerable population in the U.S. But that spectrum of like, I've like talked to them, like asking like what are like the celebrations or cultures around Hanukkah, and they're like, oh, we don't do anything. Like it to your point of like trying to, not everyone doesn't do anything, but like trying to make it into a thing equivalent to Christmas then forces it to become inherently a thing potentially that it's not for everyone, right? Or
right.
or you've had people who would
for.
observe sort of like, or talk about Christmas sort of jealously because Christmas came with like decorations and sort of celebrations that they didn't so they like growing up as a Jewish kid, they would be like, well, why don't we do you think we'll just like put like lights on our house and like garland or get a Christmas tree just because it's like pretty and fun and nice, even though they're not like observing Christmas in the way that like I have a Christmas tree. I'm not like going to church on Christmas or Christmas Eve,
Well, there's something, I guess it just takes me back to a question that you asked right before this, Jess, which is like, who is this for? Like, why these things? And it takes me to, who is this for? Like, is it for people who have never met a Jewish person in their life and are like, here's a gift, I don't know, throw pillow.
You're a Jew, do you like pillows?
Right. Like, that seems like the only person who is not going to be befuddled by this. And then the other thing is exactly what you're highlighting, Joey, too, which is the secularization of the holiday season. Like, well, actually, the secularization of Christmas. And like, this is where like, Fox News, you messed it up. Like, I agree with the idea that there is a secularization of like, of Christmas in America. That's like the Coca-Colanization of Christmas, so on and so forth. But like, it's not the same thing as the war on Christmas. I
understand.
Yeah,
but that is what that is, I think, what I want to confine my question to, because easily this could just, spill out into why don't other cultures' important observations and days also have their own universe of
throw pillows.
God damn it! But I think focusing in terms of this time of year and having all of our work calendars and all of the universes surrounding this holiday quote unquote season. Let's just talk about it as in that the secular format of just like time to observe and why, let's just say it's for commercially incentivized reason that people, It would be really smart to just like help Jews who don't have anything to do during this time have something that is relevant to do.
Yeah, there's like
it. Shopping season.
I'm so like torn on like the uncynical part of this, right? Like there is sort of 100% unequivocally like the commercial side of Christmas, and also it is just sort of like a to your point, has become sort of like a secular national holiday in the way that
Tradition.
Americans celebrate Christmas compared to other countries.
By buying a Lexus, for example.
Yes,
not saying that's like the best thing to
Honda
do.
Days to you.
It's basically just assuming that that's like a given, I guess. Maybe that makes me cynical in the framing of this conversation.
But even if the sort of semiotic signals that we use for Christmas in the US at this point may have, some of them originated from Christian things like garlands and twinkle lights and like the version that they become are just sort of like a way to add like some sort of celebratory, revelatory type of thing. And so your point about like why are companies doing it wrong? Like my question is like, do Jews even want like the pretty Hanukkah decorations instead of something else, you know?
Hanukkah is literally a celebration of the miracle of light.
No, I know.
That lasted so long. So like it's like, come on, this is so easy. You have a holiday that is already all about like hanging lights everywhere. Like, I don't know, maybe don't start with throw pillows. Use your noggin.
Like historic, like in the same fashion, like historically Jewish people are like a persecuted people. I don't know whether they want to put like a giant glowing menorah on their house because of like all of the sort of terrible things that have happened historically. So like maybe there's also that reason why people are like, I don't want to put up, you know, like I have no idea. Like I don't know what Jewish people, and also clearly like neither do neither do companies that are trying to sell them their doilies.
No one knows what to do. So this is another reason you should read this article from the Times that Aaron talked about. It's hilarious. And also, interestingly enough, there's a take from a rabbi in close to the back of the article talking about what the Jews called like publicizing the miracle. It's like a theme of Hanukkah to like you put the menorah in the window so that people can see it, and it's like, this is the miracle, like everyone should know. And it's honest, I think that's part of my frustration is like, it would be so easy. Come on, guys. Yeah. Like, come on.
It's so easy. Like, it's sitting right there. It's sitting right there.
My bike ride home passes through two different like Hasidims. And so I pass by two different giant menorahs on my bike ride, like 20-foot tall menorahs, and I'm like, this is amazing. Cool. Like this is cool.
This
like
is cool.
There was like one of them recently. Like there is like a young dude playing like a keyboard and like sort of like techno, traditional Jewish music, and I was like, this is like a sweet like he was just by himself by the 20-foot menorah, like blasting like a techno holiday, like Jewish song. And I was like, this is sweet. Like that version of it is cool when you're seeing it. And like the big lights on the top, like shining, it was fun. I guess I'm just sharing that like techno like, Hanukkah is maybe like an opportunity, cool. Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But it does remind me, all of this, the publicizing, the menorah, the hearing the techno music, like I get the missing link of like brands know that visibility not only matters, but that people will pay for it. They just don't get anything beyond that. It's like, it doesn't matter. Just make it blue and silver and it will work like a badge.
Aaron.
But it's like, that's not it.
Or wait.
Oh dear.
Is it that in the way that Coca-Cola claimed Christmas, what if Pepsi claimed Hanukkah?
Y'all, there's some things that I cannot say. There's some conversations that I will be having on Monday to see what I can do.
And Kylie Jenner is saying publicize a Pepsi. That's the campaign.
I mean, but like that.
Or sorry, Kendall Jenner. Jenner. I apologize, Kylie.
There's something profound. There's something very, very profound in all of this, which is like, you know, I still get surprised when people don't realize that like literally the modern understanding of what Santa looks like is because of Coke ads from the 40s. Like that is where that came from. Popularized, I'll say. Maybe it didn't like come from, although most things say it came from there. And it is true as well that at that like life cycle of advertising and at that moment in media, you could have that profound an impact on the populace. And so there are big questions about whether or not you could even do that today, because there's just so many more ways to connect with people. But like, I don't know that I would advocate for a brand like taking it over or anything like that.
I don't really want that, but also.
But I do want them to take responsibility. Like, that's the thing.
I
like,
want
they have
better lights
authority
and
power
fewer
over
pillows.
that. Yes. Yes. And you know what? Like, I'm cool with like pagan Christmas trees all over the place. Like, I mean, all the stuff that we have for Christmas in general is just like, none of it makes sense. Like, it came from somewhere else and we just like lump it all together and it becomes these symbols that just mean it's December again. And, you know, brands, if there's anything that we've talked about on this podcast before, it's just brands, you listen in brands. Do better, please. Please.
True, Aaron.
Just do better, y'all.
Yes.
That's
it.
Is that it?
That is it. Joey?
Or create a secular Hanukkah? Is that
Yes, I kind of wonder if that's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. I'd be on board.
Yeah, the reason why anyone knows about like or people know about the Christmas story is in part because of it's not in part, like obviously Christianity is like a huge religion, but the secularization of it and the storytelling of it, right? Like, so, yeah. I mean, Rugrats did the Hanukkah Rugrats episode. I learned a lot from that.
That's where I learned about borscht. Yeah, I didn't even know what borscht was until that episode. Also, dreidels, I'm still like, I get bummed out like when I don't get to play dreidels with my Jewish friends as often. It's just been
pro tip for Jews: if you have a friend who wants to play dreidel with you, I learned this week that it is 20 times more fun if you sing the dreidel song while you spin the dreidel, but only so long as the dreidel is up. So if it falls over, you must stop and restart from the beginning again.
I don't know if this is true of all those who are not Jewish, but that dreidel song slaps! Like, I am so here for it.
Wait for the techno version. Go to the top of Prospect Park.
Yes. Joey, in 2
find
weeks,
your
I'm coming.
keyboardist.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. I want to find this keyboardist.
Yeah, just keep an eye out for a giant menorah somewhere.
So does that walk us directly into Jess's Festival of Lights corner?
That's right.
Correct.
Happy Hanukkah. Find great Judaica and send it to Critical Nonsense at sylvain.co so that I can acquire it for myself, because I think the summary of this whole conversation is that I want to give my money to things that are very loosely Jewish, and for whatever sacrilege that is, I would like brands to step it up so that I may have that opportunity.
Is the answer like
love
Etsy Hanukkah?
Yeah, but like this maybe is still the same problem, but we should audit Etsy to see what the offerings are.
There's a dinosaur menorah.
There are definitely some very exciting. Aaron's like, I'm on my way.
I want it right now. I'm sorry. Dinosaura?
No, the answer is Etsy, actually. I'm just like quickly looking and the answer is Etsy. So maybe we did solve it.
Etsy in the wind.
Maybe we.
Wow.
Oh my gosh! Are you looking at this golden T-Rex?
Yes.
Yes. They've got T-Rexes. They got Stegosaur.
Oh gosh.
A dachshund. I don't know why that comes up with a dinosaur search, but whatever.
Oh my gosh! I can't.
This is
look
fun.
at this. Look at this horrible $250 West Elm macaroni noodle with macaroni candles sticking out of the top.
Okay,
Wes Elm made a $250 macaroni menorah.
Yeah, you have to look at this. I mean, it's the candles look like macaroni, but the menorah also kind of looks like a noodle.
Do we need to let the listeners go?
Yeah.
Because I feel like
sorry.
We're just going to
we'll add
continue
this to the show
searching
notes. You guys can
good
go.
Judaica, as you put it, Jess.
See yourselves out. Yes, we love you. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Esperanto, the language that everyone and no one is speaking about, not right now or ever.
10 plus people per million in Finland.
Ba-da-boo!
As always, we'd like to thank executive producer and the Hanukkah candle of my heart, Jess Vander.
Oh my gosh, that's very sweet. Hopefully the Shamish.
I love it.
Yes.
We'd also like to thank sound engineer and person Alex Contel.
We'd also like to thank
I think it's
programming coordinator and also person and DJ, Les Jacobs.
Yo, and Sarah Gilbert, Nora Mestrich, thank you both for giving us all of the help and all of the design for making this podcast nonsensical.
People. And as always, thank you, Sorry Ellen.
So sorry.
Special thanks to Esperanto and apparently Finland and Iceland being the most dense populations of people who
Of
speak
speakers?
it
Wow.
at 10 plus per million people.
Wow.
So that's
You know,
like at least
similarly-
20 people in Iceland.
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, good for Iceland. I don't know. I guess I want to thank like George R.R. Martin because, you know, High Valerian, he did come up with an entire language for that, but I don't know that many speakers. I believe that's probably 10 people at Comic-Con, but you know, good for them for actually learning it. And Joey, thank you to Gene Roddenberry. You are spot on that there is Klingon is a complete workable language
Yes.
that was invented by M. Okrand for the show.
Well, thank you, M. Okrand.
I would like to thank the Jewish Museum Shop for being one of the few locations that I've found online with a pretty broad and interesting, beautiful collection of Judaica. Check it out.
Well, okay. Oh my goodness. We also have to thank, just because every year you have to thank it. First of all, you got to thank Honda, because happy Honda days, y'all. And then second, you have to thank that dude that wrote that Lexus
December to remember.
sales December to remember event.
Oh.
That jingle will never escape your mind. It will be in your gray matter when you are well in your grave, because that thing just do 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 do. I'm linking it. Check the show notes.
Yeah,
and then
also
I'm not sorry about
the
it.
Toyotathon. Shan't we forget the Toyotathon?
We shan't. We shan't.
Why is everyone buying cars at Christmas time? I don't
It is the
understand.
worst gift for someone.
Yeah.
Here's a ton
Don't
of
buy me a
taxes.
car, please.
Enjoy. Like what? This shit is crazy. Ugh.
I think SNL did a skit about this at some point. You bought a Lexus? Why did you buy a Lexus? We can't afford
Why
this.
didn't you
bow.
tell me? That's. Oh, I'd like to thank Kate McKinnon for all of her years in stand-up or in sketch comedy, because we were lucky on Big Gay Sketch Show. We were even more lucky on SNL, and I hope that she sticks around for a little bit longer. But who knows? Who knows?
Maybe she just needs to take a break.
I'd like to thank breaks if I can find one, because I don't know how to take it.
And with that,
That was corny.
we're going to leave it on that
Is that
note,
it?
Aaron. We're leaving that as the note.
Okay.
And thank you, love you, bye. Happy Hanukkah.
Bye, Brian. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Bye.
See yourselves out. Yes. We love you. Goodbye.
You see yourselves out of this call.
This is an A and B conversation, so you can see your way out of it.
Bye.
So many good menorahs and so many bad menorahs. Oh my god, this is amazing.
But also,
there's
what
like-
is this?
There's some sweet dreidels in
see.
here, too.
Just this octopus menorah is horrifying.
Oh my god.
It
I'm
looks
scared.
okay in the thumbnail,
my
and then
God,
you open it up, and it's really.
No, it does not look okay. What are you talking about? Why